What's poppin', variants? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show. I am so freaking excited that Loki is back in all of his chaotic, time-slipping glory, and that he didn't turn into spaghetti. But what was the deal with that anyway? Like, why was Loki even at risk for turning into spaghetti in the first place? And why was Mobius at risk for losing his skin? Also, where the hell is the TVA, and how the hell does a temporal aura extractor even work? Let us dive into all of these questions today, my nerd babies. Also, drop a quick thumbs up if you could. It really helps with the channel, and it would mean a lot to me personally. All right, so I want to start this video off by talking about this whole spaghetti business and why Mobius's harrowing trip in his cracked spacesuit from this episode could have revealed exactly where the TVA is in relation to the MCU. From what I can tell so far in this first episode of Loki Season 2 is that the entire TVA is located inside of a black hole, which is something that I have been trying to say for the longest time now on the internet, mostly because the Loki Season 1 finale revealed that to us right from the very start. Right after the Marvel Studios intro for that finale, we see what appears to be the energies of an entire universe be condensed into a singular point, before an explosion of energy pushes the camera backwards to reveal two large black holes into frame. Then we zoom into the black hole on the right of the screen and all the energy within it to find a whole nother universe living inside of that black hole, with that black hole's inner world then being condensed into a bunch of super skinny glowing strings of energy. Before we finally get the reveal that all of those skinny strings are actually timelines that make up the multiversal ring around He Who Remains' citadel at the end of time. This revelation that Kang was manipulating the sacred timeline from within one of the black holes at the end of time caused me to freak the fuck out when I first noticed this a few years back, because it all makes sense and is very much tied to science. If you're familiar with some of my past Loki videos from my former employer, then you'll already be familiar with an astronomical concept that I brought up called the black hole era of the cosmos. And the reason why I brought this up in the past was to explain to everyone exactly what these two black holes in the Loki finale are, and how they relate to the end of time and the sacred timeline itself. Because you see, the black hole era of the universe is basically the hypothesized period of the cosmos that occurs after every star in the universe burns out, when all the energies of everything that have ever existed become swallowed and consumed by a near infinite sea of black holes right before the very end of the cosmos itself. And this period lasts for a very long time, apparently lasting about 10 duodecillion to 1 Google years. I have never heard the word duodecillion in my freaking lifetime. Duodecillion? Duodecillion Murphy? What the fuck is this? These are numbers that I cannot even begin to fathom. Like, the entire universe won't have any stars or planets or asteroids or anything at that point. Just a bunch of black holes sucking in the remnants of every single thing that has ever existed everywhere, which is kind of a bummer if you think about it for too long, but hey, the good news is you'll probably be long dead by the time this happens, so you know, silver linings and all that. Your molecules won't feel a thing thanks to the sweet release of death. Thank you, death. What a pal. However, what if you were somehow alive during this black hole era? And what if you got sucked into one of those black holes? With the unbelievable levels of gravity that these astronomical black suckers naturally have, what would happen to your body if you were to suddenly trip and fall into a black hole? Well, I hope you like Olive Garden, because your ass just got turned into spaghetti in a process that scientists accurately and hilariously call spaghettification. And it's a term that we can see written on the ground in front of the door leading outside of the TVA as part of a very much needed warning for anyone not wearing a protective suit with a crack in it. The immense gravitational pull of a black hole that not even the speed of light can escape from would literally pull your body towards the center of that black hole until all the atoms that used to make up your body were nothing but an unbelievably long, thin piece of subatomic spaghetti. This is precisely why I believe they show John Taylor's 1974 book Black Holes, the End of the Universe in the credits, and also why OB says this line in the first episode.
And then if it doesn't do that?
Well, have you heard about how if you fall into a black hole, you turn into spaghetti?
No.
Good. The less you know about that, the better.
OB says this because the entire TVA rests within a massive black hole. And if Loki were to stay in this black hole space outside of the TVA building for too long without a suit, his body would turn into atomically thin spaghetti, just like the multiversal energies of the sacred timeline were turned into thin spaghetti strings of energy. We actually get a look at what the MCU multiverse's black hole looks like from outside that black hole very briefly in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. After Strange in America blue skidoo themselves away from a cranky Karen with a crown and no kids, they fly past a couple of living tribunal heads right before flying right in front of a giant black hole with a bunch of spaghetti strings of energy flying wildly about. Look at all that spaghetti. That right there is the chaotically branching multiverse that we are now dealing with in Loki season 2. And it is only when Strange flies into this black hole that he actually starts the process of hopping through the timelines of the multiverse. Like, I made a really great video about this a while back on another channel that you can check out here. But speaking of this raw time energy, now let's talk about the actual energy of the sacred timeline, because this here is super important to understanding exactly what a temporal aura is, how it relates to the sacred timeline, and why falling into a black hole may not exactly mean the end of the universe, thanks to the TVA. Now, the reason why Mobius's skin was at risk for getting peeled in the first place was because of the impossibly hot and corrosive radiation emitting from the raw energy of the timeline. But what is this mysterious rainbow energy? Well, if you've been following me for the last few years, then you probably already know what I'm about to say, as this is basically the foundation for my theory that connects all of the rainbow energies of the MCU to the 6 Infinity Stones and real-world science, a theory that I call the Marvel trigger theory. The Marvel trigger theory is unfortunately too sciencey and complex to fully explain in this video right now, because your boy would have to start explaining cosmic concepts like dark energy, which Nick Fury was studying at the beginning of Avengers 1 at the Dark Energy Mission Facility, or dark matter, which is tied to chaos matter and the ether like Odin says in Thor 2, or green MCU gravity, which is what makes the time stone time travel of Doctor Strange 1 possible. And it's also why Jan Rog is able to manipulate gravity with his green magnetron gauntlets. It's all connected. But in the interest of time, the main thing that you need to know for this video is that every MCU universe has been painted with these 6 infinity energies that were released during every universe's Big Bang. Every single corner of the MCU 616 universe and beyond is influenced by these rainbow energies, and every universe would completely fall apart without the laws that came with them. The actual physical 6 Infinity Stones themselves are merely a byproduct of the Big Bang's rainbow explosion of science energy onto the empty canvas of the 616 universe. Basically 6 souvenirs from the Big Bang creation event itself, which is why anyone who can collect all 6 stones can reshape reality as they see fit with a snap, with those snaps effectively producing many Big Bangs of energy. And because the entirety of everything in the Marvel multiverse is made out of infinity energy, this is exactly why people who get pruned look like rainbows of energy as their bodies disintegrate, because human beings have a ton of infinity energy living inside of them. Not just because the universe is all rainbow infinity energy, but also because of the amount of infinity energy the people of planet Earth have been exposed to, primarily due to the multiple Infinity Stone snaps that have happened since Avengers Infinity War. Like, this is precisely what I believe temporal aura is in Loki, and why the temporal aura scan of Loki's body in season 1 looks the way it does, because that is what Loki's infinity energies look like from the inside. And the best example that we get of this in the MCU movies themselves surprisingly comes in the movie Shang-Chi, specifically during the moment when Wenwu is having his rainbow-ass soul sucked out by the Dweller in Darkness in order to gain more power. Like, that moment is when we can see the infinity energy that exists in every human exposed out of Wenwu. And while the TVA calls this temporal aura, human beings refer to these inner energies within as their soul, basically their inner chi. This is chi energy, soul energy, infinity energy. So basically, Mobius had to use that temporal aura extractor directly on the sacred timeline itself, because the sacred timeline contains the energies of everyone who ever lived in the multiverse. Rainbow energy so goddamn hot and powerful that it can melt the skin right off of Mobius's body. His mustache would be no more, and that would be a crime. Now, this all being said, knowing that the TVA is inside of a black hole, all of these rainbow infinity energies that the TVA manage as the sacred timeline have to come from somewhere, right? Well, much like we would turn into spaghetti if we were to fall into a black hole, this is exactly why the sacred timeline is a bunch of spaghetti noodles itself that we saw getting spaghettified during that sequence in the season 1 finale. I believe that whatever primordial universe or multiverse that existed before the formation of this black hole that the TVA lives in had part of the energies of everything that ever existed in that prequel universe eaten and turned into spaghetti by He Who Remains' black hole. This is all just repurposed energy from outside the black hole. Then He Who Remains shaped those noodles into a sacred timeline pasta with the help of his time variance authority and his handy dandy time loom, essentially creating a pocket multiverse inside of this black hole. Like, this is also why time used to work differently in the TVA in season 1. The laws of time go straight out the window inside of a black hole after all, due to the crazy amount of gravity that the black hole produces. And since our perception of time is forever linked to the concept of gravity in science, time was never really a factor for TVA agents like Mobius or B-15 until something mysteriously weird happened during the Loki finale that seems to have changed all that. Now, remember that weird moment in the Loki finale when He Who Remains just stopped talking because he felt something in the air shift before picking up an object and then watching it fall down? I strongly believe that this was He Who Remains detecting his black hole's inner shift in gravity, and then immediately testing how this new change in gravity would function by watching how his desk ornament fell. That very moment of Kang letting the sacred timeline cross what he calls the threshold is when I believe time travel might have become possible within the TVA and the black hole itself. This all being said, I honestly believe He Who Remains was doing his thing inside of the Citadel at the end of time, long after the TVA came and went and built the perfect sacred timeline for him with their time loom, with Miss Minutes being the only TVA agent left to manage the sacred timeline that all of those human workers built. I have a feeling that the reason why the writers have included time slipping as a central part of this story was to show the complete history of the TVA from inception to its death, and reveal how the TVA and the Citadel existed on the same rock in the center of this massive black hole. A rock that we see has a massive hole in the middle for a mysterious reason in the Loki finale. There is a good chance here that this hole is where the TVA actually used to be before He Who Remains got rid of it in the far future of the TVA after they completed their eons of tireless pruning for him, with the very top floor of the TVA being the very Citadel itself. But only time will tell. But if there's one thing that I have the utmost confidence in, is that the entire TVA is inside of this black hole on the right of the screen from the Loki finale, and that this black hole on the left is likely home to a completely different multiverse entirely. But which specific multiverse that is has yet to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised if this is where the Council of Kangs were chilling at, because they themselves seem to be managing a completely different multiverse. Because remember how Miguel from Across the Spider-Verse calls the entire Marvel cosmos the arachno-humanoid poly multiverse?
Spider-Verse? Oh, that's stupid. It's called the arachno-humanoid polymultiverse.
Miguel using the term poly basically confirmed the existence of more than one multiverse in the Marvel Cinematic Cosmos, which makes perfect sense considering that the future black hole era of the cosmos will for sure have way more than 2 black holes. He Who Remains himself shows us at least 3 multiversal black holes during his presentation of the Multiversal War to Loki and Sylvie. So God knows how many multiverses actually exist in the growing Marvel cosmos. So this all being said, expect black holes and gravitational science to play a big role in Loki Season 2, especially since He Who Remains' window was literally modeled after a black hole itself, with 6 circles swirling around the center to represent the 6 infinity energies of the universe being manipulated inside. A piece of creative genius by the set designers to foreshadow the black hole shenaniganery to come in Season 2. God, I love this show so freaking much. It's glorious. I need more of this show in my eyeballs right now. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter or Instagram or wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, you can follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube, and make sure to hit that bell so that you can get notifications every time we upload a video. And also, do not forget to keep it locked on my boy Paul's breakdowns for every episode of Loki. My dude is going in. My dude is looking at all the details that you might have missed. So please subscribe today so you don't miss all that. Paul's the man. But again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you guys later for more Loki. Ta-ta!